till 9 o'clock.
Perhaps we can talk a bit about how the tour came about. I guess you were over here in April, why?
What's the question? What's the question in there?
The question is, how did the tour come about? Why 3 years?
Well, primarily it's to expose the new work, the prison, you know, and that's basically it. Just solicited some bait,
Get a little exposure. This is college dates rather than any sort of dates. Why college dates? Interesting.
Well, I don't really have a tremendous amount of pick and choose at this point. More or less play where the traffic will bear it.
I understand you're playing at Belfast, which in fact you've done it this time. Why Belfast? Because it seems a rather dangerous place to be playing.
Yeah, everybody was very upset about the fact that I had played Belfast. It was interesting.
Why was that?
Well, just...
Upset for you, or?
Yeah, scared, you know. Certain amount of fear.
Didn't you feel scared yourself? I mean, being a well-known figure, that some lunatic might try to do something?
No, I never really had that fear. I began to have a certain amount of fear when I got there, because the magnitude of the struggle is certainly big. But there wasn't any real fear ever.
Did that fear affect the dates you played? I mean, did it affect the way you felt, the way the audience felt, the general atmosphere?
Well, you can't be in a situation like that without having some effect. It'd be difficult for me to assess exactly what that effect was. I'm sure it had some effect.
Well, how were you received in Belfast? I mean, were the audiences responding to what you were doing?
It seemed to be. It was a very warm audience, a very nice evening, and there was a man on before me singing traditional Irish folk ballads, and he was well received, and there was some nice things happening. It was nice.
Are you finding on the dates that people are familiar with your work? Are they coming along to see exactly what you're doing, or what?
By and large, it's curiosity seekers, and mostly people who just don't have anything else to do. The familiarity with my work is very light.
That's interesting, because I found that at Nottingham, the people I talked to, most of them knew very much about what you were doing, but at Colchester it seemed perhaps a bit different, you know. I think at Colchester was people coming along to say exactly what you were going to do.
It could have been, right.
How did you go down in the various places you played so far? And what sort of reaction did you got? I mean, well, which was the best one, you would say? But from your point of view and the audience point of view, because presumably how you play must be affected by how the audience responds.
Well, they've been all about the same. They're all about the same to me, although in terms of the reaction and everything, I had a nice concert at Brighton, I think. But concerts are a strange situation anyway to assess, you know. I mean, it's a rather intriguing phenomena anyway. You go and you sit in a room and one person behaves in a certain fashion, and everybody else observes that behavior and then decides whether or not that behavior has some sort of meaning to it, and then whether that meaning brings them pleasure or whether it is not bringing them pleasure. It's just an odd kind of a social thing that we do.
So do you vary your performance to suit the audience, or do you perform exactly at the same show each night?
Well,
it couldn't be exactly at the same show, obviously,
yeah.
But approximately the same show.
Yeah, it varies. It has to, because of the nature of the audience and the nature of the show and the nature of the thought that's controlling all of us. It just has to vary. But it isn't a variation so that I begin to in one moment do some kind of Yes material, or start playing Beatles tunes, you know, or do stand-up comedy. I mean, there's a certain thread through all that.
Are you viewing the provincial dates as different to the London dates? Because I've seen you both times in London, and you've gone down really well. I mean, the audiences there are like they're converted. I mean, they all know what you're doing. They all know exactly what you do, and the reception has been rapturous, to say the least. But on the provincial dates, you know, as you've said, it might be people coming out of curiosity and so on. So is your approach different? I mean, do you view the London audience like that, and are you viewing that as the culmination of the tour, or just another date?
Well, there's a certain largeness to the London date, but it doesn't really weigh any heavier than the provincial dates because of that largeness. It's just a fact of the matter. The provinces came up because I wanted to see if there was some way I could expose some of the things I was doing to a broader number of people.
In London, you're playing with the band. Will you be playing the same material with the band as you're playing without the band in the provinces, or will it be a different set?
No, it'll be a different set. I intend to do stuff with the band that came off the first National Band albums. And when I do my solo set, it'll just be my solo set, and I'll probably do some things from the prison.
So in other words, it'll be a longer show in London, in fact.
Than the ones out here, yeah. It'll be probably an hour and a half.
How did you come to choose the people that you're playing with? Red Rose is an obvious choice, but how about Paganmatics? How did you come to?
I was just familiar with their playing, or some of the works that they had done.
Had you worked with them before, or met them, or?
No, never seen them. I saw Dave Maddox playing with Bryn Harth the night I did Victoria Palace, but that was the only time I saw him.
Perhaps I can talk about your concert style and how you evolved this, because it's very loose, very low key. You more or less appear to be doing exactly what you want to do. And in some cases, I think I detected that there wasn't any sort of fixed guitar patterns, because what you were playing seemed to vary from night to night in the songs as far as the guitar work went. Would that be a fair comment, would you say? I mean, it seemed very... You're certainly the loosest performer I've ever seen.
Well, I don't know. No, I don't vary the guitar consciously. I don't vary it consciously. You know, if I go out with the notion of doing something different, I'm prepared to do whatever seems to be right to do, and just...
Because I'm thinking of at Nottingham, at the end of one song, you said, never played that before in my life. Now, at first, that could have been just a flip remark. When I think about it, you could be referring to the guitar work on it, because I've forgotten what the number was, Silver Moon possibly, but it did seem completely different to the way you've done the number in the past.
Oh yes, I remember that. Well, that was the first time I'd ever played that, and it was just interesting that it came out, and there it was, you know.
Because you've got a very distinctive guitar style, and it does seem, like I said, very changeable.
Okay.
What can you say? Yeah.
Ray, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
What are you seeing in these concerts? What do you think is happening?
I'm seeing...
you know, I got a bad review at night. The guy said I talked too much. I didn't read it, but I just heard about it.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. If you thought that of Nottingham, you would have hated the April concert, because you talked far more then. I think that... I suppose it's a cliche to say that people are unique, but you are. Because nobody else has ever done anything like you're doing. But I've seen anyway. I mean, you do talk a lot, but I think it does, most of the time, tie in with the songs. Perhaps less so in these dates, but on the dates you played at the Roundhouse, at the Roll with the Flow stuff, and at Victoria Palace, building up to the end, you know, in which you asked people just to walk out. That seemed to work really well. It seemed like a very definite structure. And I think most bands don't have a definite structure to their set. I mean, they know they're going to play song A, song B, then go off and do song Z as an encore. But it's not really a logical structure, really, because they could rearrange those songs. Whereas yours seemed more of a structure in a performance and in what you're talking about. It seemed a very definite idea of what you were doing, despite the fact that it was very loose.
Well, I hear you. That's because mind is organized. If it's not, we have what you and I refer to as insanity. And if it's allowed to function without a lot of things getting in the way or occluding it, functions in an orderly fashion. We observe. But I've been having some second thoughts about these concert dates. No, not second thoughts. The concert dates have been grueling, these particular ones.
In what way?
Well, they've been grueling from the standpoint of it being very difficult to maintain a certain rapport, a certain communication. There seems to be a distance that doesn't allow it.
Is that because some of the people that you play to wouldn't be familiar with the material, do you reckon? Or what?
Well, the familiarity doesn't come really from knowing the material. The familiarity comes with the willingness to accept new ideas.
Because you seem to have gone down very well. I mean, the dates that I've seen, you've gone down very well. It didn't really seem as though there was any distance between the audience and you. I mean, there was obviously a few people who weren't really listening.
Tell me why you think that the people that come to see me here in Sheffield will be coming here.
Okay.
What do you figure somebody walks in expecting to see?
Well,
Don McLean?
No, I don't expect to see Don McLean. I think there's going to be... One thing that surprises me is how popular you are. I hope you don't take that the wrong way, but it does. Because, I mean, you haven't really had any sort of big hit albums and so on. But you are amazingly popular. I mean, I think I've talked to you before about the virtues of being a cult figure. But I think you are a cult figure. You're somebody... I've read a review somewhere which said something like, the Moody Blues, everybody's fifth favourite band. Right? And I think there are a lot of bands like this, a lot of players like this. They play stuff which is middle of the road contemporary, if you like. You know, you can't dislike them, so you like them. People like America, and so on. Whereas with you, I think you're very much somebody either likes you or they don't. You know, you're either their number one, if you like, or number two, say, or not. And it's these people that are coming to see you. You know, these people who are going into great lengths to see you.
Yeah, people are going to great lengths. That's an interesting thing. See people show up from all over the place.
Right.
These little provincial dates, you know.
Yeah.
Some people drove in from out of town.
Yeah.
Well, here you are.
Yeah, here I am. Yeah, absolutely, you know.
Of course, you're working, but
well, even so, I mean, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think that you had something to offer. You know, I mean, I wouldn't be following Led Zeppelin or Pink Floyd or anybody around. I mean, it's just you. So it's obviously something that you've got that nobody else has got. well, obviously. I mean, otherwise, you wouldn't have attained this sort of status.
Yeah, well, I know what you're referring to, the Michael Nesmith-ness of it all, but it's just the Michael Nesmith-ness of it.
Yeah. What is the Michael Nesmith-ness of it?
Well, Michael Nesmith-ness of it is the same, is this manifestation of an idea.
Yes, but Michael Nesmith-ness seems to be very different from Pink Floyd-ness or John Denver-ness or John Stewart-ness. I mean, obviously, what you're playing is very different, of course, but the actual structuring of your fans, of your following, and what they're doing, and their rapport from you, and what they expect from you, is different. Do you find that people do expect a lot from you?
Well, it's a very interesting thing because I don't have an agent, and I don't have any management, and I totally take care of my entire affairs myself. And my wife is my business partner. We take care of our business together. And when I arrive at a concert, there's just the movement into the concert domain and the movement out of it. And and a very active interface with the individual events, the individualized events in that domain. And it doesn't, there is a certain non-reactivity that occurs from that standpoint that is much different than injecting something into a domain that is foreign to it. And the thing that occurs in these instances is that the place where we all are is the place that's allowed to operate naturally, easily, without surrounding it with a buffer of entourage or a buffer of limousines, Learjets, that kind of a thing, and carrying an absolute minimum stuff. And so, fundamentally, what I do is show up with a guitar and take off my coat and go to work. And so you would think that that would make one so uniquely sensitive to what was happening, but it has almost the opposite effect, in that everything that happens begins to have a certain degree of sameness to it, a solidity. It's not a boring, static sameness. It is a dynamic and active sameness. It is a sort of security, if you will. It is a comfort to be able to move easily in a situation without having anything threatening occur or having any roles to maintain or games to play. And this seems to be one of the things that's very disconcerting to people. I should say it's very disconcerting to the press. That's what I mean, the media.
Well, the fact that you can, like, catch a train from London and sort of come up, carrying your guitar and walk in at the main entrance and sort of hang around at the balcony talking to people and so on. Is that what you mean? The fact that you aren't distant, as a lot of rock stars, inverted commas, are. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, except I'm not really bringing that so much out, because that's more of a personal thing. That's the way it's expressed. In this instance, it could be expressed that I go right to the dressing room and don't say anything to anybody. What I'm talking about is not jarring the sphere of activity with some sort of alien activity, but rather harmonizing with it, with the consistency of the activity that's going on in everybody's consciousness.
Well, in other words, you feel that you aren't changing how people think or how people feel, you're just showing them what they already know, would you say?
Well, I'm not even doing that.
Well, what are you doing?
Playing a few songs.
No, I think it's more than that. I think this is the Michael Nesmith that you were talking about. It's not just playing a few songs. And I'm sure you know it isn't.
Well, I know, I am aware of what you were talking about, but I'm only aware of what you were talking about because you were talking about it.
Yeah, but I'm sure I'm not the first person to talk to you about it. And you're not unaware of it.
I'm not. That's what I'm saying. But my entire access to the information is from outside. It's people talking to me about it. People say, a guy came up the other day before the Brighton concert. He says, "I understand you're into a religious trip," and that was very interesting to me. What did he mean by that? And so I asked, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, just that you adopt some sort of posture, you have some sort of philosophy that you're espousing, or something that you're doing, some sort of quasi-religious, or maybe absolutely religious, or some sort of situation that is occurring, and that you're really on a path of enlightenment." And I said, "Gee, well, no, I hate to be if he was looking for that, I don't know, he might have been looking to puncture some balloons." But I was unable to say anything to him other than, "I don't have a clue what you're talking about." Although I do know what he was talking about, because he explained to me what he was talking about, just like you explained it to me, just like other people explained it to me. And in a funny way, there's a sort of a focus that comes with that kind of attention that isn't very good. That's kind of withering, you know, and has a tendency to be burdensome. And so there's a consistent activity to let that attention go. And I guess it is the activity that is letting that go is the only awareness that I have of it. But this that we're talking about. And when I begin to develop the knowledge of this something, this essence, from a letting it go standpoint, you see, I sort of have an inverse picture of it, and that coupled with the information I'm getting from people around. But in terms of having some sort of conscious trip go down, the only conscious trip I've got going down is just consciousness itself.
But when you do your act, you don't just say, well, here's the next song, it's from the next album, and so on, and go and do it. You quite often talk about something that sometimes is related to the song, but sometimes isn't. For example, at Nottingham, you were talking about a primal sound, which didn't have anything to do with the songs you were talking about. And obviously you were talking about things like missing the train, okay. But you were talking about primal sound, which seemed to be something that you'd obviously thought about quite a lot.
Yeah, well, I hadn't thought about it at all. It just happens to be so. There are a lot of these sort of cosmic phenomena. It isn't a question of saying the first thing that pops into one's head, but if you can understand it from this standpoint, you and I live in a sea of events. We call them things and objects. In fact, they are ideas. And once the information occurs that all is idea, that all is mind, this has an extraordinary effect on thought, because right now the peculiar bailiwick of thought is mind for you and I, consciousness, that which we in some fashion incarcerate inside that which is not idea. And when we begin to see the notion of it being all idea, all mind, there's roughly the same sort of breakthrough in thought that happens when you understand that the world is not flat. Regardless of how it may appear, the world isn't flat.
But why put forward these thoughts in a concept format?
What?
Why put forward these thoughts?
Well, I was just going to explain it to you. So now what it appears to you right now is that I'm talking about things that I talk about in concert, but what I'm giving you is a little access to what happens on that stage, or what happens all the time. Suddenly, a thought occurs to you or I, and we say, here is a thought. It's distinctly different from anything else going on around me. It is a thought I am thinking, nobody else is thinking it. But it's ways you can really see it. One time I was involved in some sort of business transaction with a lady. The lady was virtually the antithesis of that which I felt attracted to. Historically, she expressed a lot of qualities that I had never found attractive, and as a matter of fact, had even cataloged in my own individual ego-centered trip of being unattractive. And yet I found that this enormous lust, this enormous sexual attraction occurring for her. And I was with a friend, and I left, and neither one of us said anything, but finally I turned to him and I said something about that phenomenon having occurred. And he said, well, I felt the same thing. At which point I understood that it wasn't my thought at all. It was an outside generated idea that I had decided to start feeling. And I could only entertain a thought in my own consciousness if I were, by absolutely believing that it was mine.
Yes, of course, but then again, some things are more apparent than others. I mean, you can look at a painting and say, well, isn't that a good painting? And somebody's going to say yes. I mean, obviously it's a matter of personal opinion, but things like that. There are some things that are certainly more obvious than others. For example, attractiveness of women. But obviously, this female had something.
Well, no, don't get lost into the content of the example.
Oh, sure, yeah. But
what I'm trying to explain to you is that there are ideas being generated all around by everyone. You believe right now that you have a certain set of ideas that belong exclusively to you, and no one else is thinking.
Yes, but I think...
Isn't that so?
No, I don't, because I don't believe in original thought. Because surely all that we're thinking comes from other people, from different philosophies. I mean, listening to you, I've learned some things. Listening to other people, I've learned some things. And I'm sure people have learned things from listening to me. And it's all a large amorphous mass.
What we're building out of that information, which isn't completely formulated right now, is the fact that if you separate the I from the idea which occurs, just briefly, and let the idea occur, you find yourself in the oddest position of not only reading other people's minds and saying things to other people which they're thinking, and calling people which are expecting you to call them, and hearing from someone who you expect to hear from, and knowing where someone is. But you also, if you happen to be in that state of mind when you're on stage, end up responding to a specific need by saying something that is absolutely discontinuous with anything that the ordinary circumstances might dictate is normal and the logical flow of what is happening.
Yeah, but this is a level of perception, and I'm sure certain people don't reach that level of perception.
Everybody is at that level of perception.
I don't think so. I think some of the things that...
Well, it would be so if you were not conscious. But this is the nature of consciousness. I'm not saying that you're aware of it. I'm not saying that it is anything that anybody practices or does, because clearly they don't. And about the most profound display we have of it is the fact that vast majorities of people manage to avoid driving into oncoming traffic.
Maybe you want a drink?
No, thank you.
Okay. Do you know what time you're on? About 11:15.
11:45?
Yeah.
About 10:30, okay.
You're talking 10:30 with?
Oh, it doesn't make any difference.
It's just that maybe it's holiday. You get rid of the night.
Okay, is there a way I can go on 10:30? When does the other band go on?
The other bloke's going to half this night.
Oh, the bloke.
Yeah, the bloke is Kevin Cannon. Yeah, the local boy. Well, if you can watch this before 9:30, then we'll get on to the gospel afterwards. Okay.
Thank you.
Will you be wanting any further drinks later on?
No, the minute the show's over, I'm going to hit the road.
You got any gigs on stage or anything?
Nothing.
Fair enough. Okay, we'll come and collect you just before you join, okay?
Yeah.
Cheers.
That keeps us from driving into oncoming traffic. But it is the nature of consciousness to express itself in the fashion about which you and I are speaking. Most people do not understand what we are talking about, but it does not mean that most people are not conscious. Because if there is one thing that we all must agree on as we are talking to each other, is that there is the activity of thought occurring. There is one single thing. It appears to be different levels. It is the appearance of those different levels that keeps us locked into the earth. It's flat. See? Oh, yes, well, I understand that. Yes, absolutely, you're absolutely right. The world is round, but be careful that you don't fall off the edge. If it is a discontinuous kind of, it doesn't fly. It is the nature of consciousness to express itself in this fashion. And it's doing it right now. It's doing it right now in you. It's doing it right now in me. It never stops doing it. It's always doing it. It's consistently providing you and I with a thing that we refer to as mind. But generally, we're very strung behind the notion that it is our mind. And so we have the notion of another mind. And the universe becomes an equation which is everything that is not me plus me. And that becomes universe.
Yeah, yeah. But I suppose it goes back to the old idea of nothing existing apart from me, right? You're a figment of my imagination. There's nothing that you can do to show me that you're not.
You're wandering into existentialism.
That's right.
And it's like a simplistic analysis of it, because within the infinitude of mind, now here's another problem. Let's take a lateral shift out for a minute. Another problem is words like omnipotence and infinitude and this eloquence that we're kind of railroaded into as we discuss these questions are buzzwords to a lot of people. Say spirit to somebody, and if it ain't Halloween, then you're a religious nut. And that's a lot of the battle that is fought, is in overcoming those prejudices. But in this infinitude of mind, this individualized expression of the compound ideas of infinite spirit is much more than the mortal notion of believing that it is imagining its universe. And the way that is proven is when we begin to extract ourselves from this notion of a mortal consciousness.
To go off the subject.
Okay.
Well, no, it's not really off the subject, but when you talk about that, you're very, very precise, very articulate. Yet at other times you're very imprecise. I'm thinking of at Colchester when Paul asked you, how do you want the light? And you said on. And various other people have asked you a few other things, like why do you sign your autograph, Carlyle William? And I think I was told, you said, I don't know. So how did you draw a comparison between the two? Why in some instances are you very, very precise, very articulate, very logical, yes, in other instances not?
Well, I mean, you've got to be able to hear that question. It is the nature of things.
What do you mean by that? The nature of things.
It never is anything less than terribly precise, but it occurs to be, or occurs as being very imprecise.
Yeah, but
I mean, the absolute answer to a question, why do you sign your name Carlyle William, is, I don't know. And that's an absolute answer. How do you want the light? The absolutely, perfectly precise, paralogical answer to that is on.
Yeah, but you must have thought.
What I make an effort to do, when I explain to you, and what you see is the organized arrangement of these concept unit building blocks that we call words, is occurring because there is an effort on my part to delineate in some conceptual fashion for you the model of these ideas about which we were talking, in order for there to be a link-up.
Yeah. How do you feel about meeting people, people who know your work, when they ask you questions that perhaps you have been asked hundreds of times before? I mean, presumably, if you do sign your name Carlyle Wheeling...
well, I don't sign my name.
You don't? Oh, I beg your pardon. Well, if you... For example, I think somebody asked you at Nottingham lots and lots of questions about the monkeys and why you exposed the fact that you didn't play on your own records and so on and so forth. I mean, how do you feel about that? Well, people ask you these things that you've answered so many times before, and that they could perhaps find the answer out from a different source.
Well, I have no feeling about it at all. It's just the next question to just answer it.
I was thinking that could be why you were imprecise and answered things like, I don't know, and so on. So it all comes down to the questions, what do you say? I think that's about it. Thank you very much. You're traveling completely light with just a guitar. And so you're relying on other people's PA systems and so on and so forth, and microphones and what have you. don't you feel this leaves you at the mercy of however bad their systems are going to be?
Well, I don't ever feel at the mercy of anything, and that's because there is a fundamental, basic trust that it's going to work out. In order for that to occur, one needs to eliminate the kind of overriding fear of death, which pervades most everybody's thought. Right, fear of death is the same thing as maybe the sound system won't work. It all boils down to the same thing. Somebody's going to destroy me.
So in other words, you feel that it's out of your hands anyway, even if you did bring your own sound system?
Precisely. Well, I feel like that the only way that mind expresses itself intelligently, and is doing it all the time.
What happens though if any of the dates you hadn't been playing with a support singer or band who didn't have these things, and what would have happened then? Or did you know about this beforehand? Did you know there was going to be a support?
But it didn't happen.
True, but it could have done that.
No, it's a meaningless question.
Well, yes, but you must have checked out in that case that...
Well, the way that it's handled consciously, I'm giving you an absolute answer. You've asked me for the directions to the BP station, and I'm about to tell you.
Yes.
Mind is expressing itself intelligently, and the understanding and embracing of that idea and that point brings it into your experience. Now, it's not to be thought of simplistically, and it's not to be used naively, but it will do everything from making sure a PA system is operative and correct to curing cancer.
You know, you're the only person who could give me an answer like that for a question about a PA system. You realise that?
Well, yeah, I realize that, I guess.
Will you be going on to American college tour, would you say, after this? Or
I have no plans. I'm just trying to get the Pacific Arts Corporation healthy and functioning well. That's occupying a lot of my time.
Okay, thanks very much.
Okay.
Playing with Michael tonight.
How I'm playing with Michael. It was sort of a funny thing that I just happened to be in town. Michael's a friend of mine from America, and I was over in Paris doing an album, and I came to visit my friends in Enfield, and I found out that Michael was in town, and we got together and decided to play. It was real simple, he's just a friend, like his music.
Well, how about you, Dave and Dave?
Well, when he was here last year, I was playing with Bryn House, and Bryn was a support act to Michael. And we got talking afterwards, and this was sometime this year. I don't remember, April would it be, something like that. Around about that time, middle of the year. And about, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, he called me up from Los Angeles and said that he was coming over with Red, and would I be interested in playing for him, and did I know a bass player? And being as how I owe Dave Pegg such a lot of money, I was forced to take him.
So how about rehearsal, and how much rehearsal have you had? I mean, are the two of you familiar with Michael's material, or what?
I think Steve is more than Dave himself.
Yeah, I know Michael's material a little bit. I never played with him exactly like in concerts, but his music, sat around his house, sat around my house and played, so on that level, yeah, I knew his music.
How about you?
And also some of his material is
very much on the record.
Yeah, it's on the record market. It's more popular in the States than over here.
A lot of the songs he had were, I think, #1 records in America, which never actually got here. I think a few of the tunes, and so it was more widely heard.
And people are aware of him over here, like the first national band, the other albums in his producing world, but not to the extent that they are in the States and everything. Although his body's a pretty sort of cold figure in the States in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's just sort of...
Just the place is bigger, so therefore more people know that.
So how familiar are you to actually with the work? I mean, did you bother going out listening to all the records before you came along today, or what?
No.
He didn't want us to do that. He just wanted us to sit around and attempt to work from there. We had a rehearsal yesterday, and we've rehearsed this afternoon.
So how much rehearsal is that altogether?
Very little.
Not enough.
can't think I really like some more, but he wants it, inverted commas, loose. Lucy's going to get it.
How exactly are you doing? Are you working from chords or by ear or what?
Memory.
I seem to notice that you'll have bits of paper with the chords.
I've got no chords written out because I have a very bad memory.
A lot of the chords sort of follow, you know, I think most of the songs are fairly easy. I think it's more the feeling of the song, you know, Michael. They're not complicated songs or anything like that. They're just good songs.
What sort of direction has Michael put on you? And has he said, play this, this and this, or he's left it more up to you?
No, the opposite. More, I want you to play how you react to the song, as opposed to I want you to play this fill and this lick and
Okay, thanks very much. Michael, well, first of all, read exactly why you're here. How did Michael contact you to come over to play the date?
Called me on the phone and wanted to know if I wanted to come to jolly old England.
And?
I said, sure.
Why?
I like to play with him. I get tired of doing the same thing all the time. I wish it was spring.
Are you finding that you're having to relearn the material you did with him, or is it coming naturally?
No, the only difficulties you heard me having at rehearsal is because I'm in a different tuning than I normally am. Because that dumb guitar out there keeps breaking its strings, so I lowered everything a whole tone. And it's still breaking strings.
Yeah. In fact, you've been having some health problems as well.
Well, that was because I took some sleeping pills on the plane to sleep for the trip and reacted badly to it.
But you feel okay now?
I feel all right. I took the knife out of my chest, and it's not in there anymore, so it feels good.
Okay, thanks very much.
Okay.
You seem to be just about to a manager, Catherine. Could you explain what you've been doing over these past few hours?
Well, I've just been, we're recording the concert, and so I've been trying to make sure that is underway and getting the sound check and doing that, and just looking at the lighting, making sure the lighting looks good, and seeing that there aren't any flaws. If we can avoid any before the concert, then it should go smoother and leave the music making to the musicians. So.
Yeah, it seemed as though while Michael was on stage, you were more or less directing what people should do and so on and so forth.
Well, I was...
And obviously Michael couldn't be in two places at once.
Yeah, basically. That was it. You know, I mean, I was just, like I said, checking the lighting and making sure that they had everything that they needed so that they could just make the music.
How about the sound crew? Did you and Michael arrange for them, or they arranged for them?
They were arranged from the promoter, which is John Curd. And so they were working with the people that we've hired to do the recording and making sure that their sound and their microphones can be common, if possible, with the ones that we're using for the recording, and just trying to make sure there aren't any conflicts.
What sort of last-minute difficulties have you had?
Haven't had any. It's gone very smoothly. It looks very good. I think we'll be fine.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Great, lovely. Perhaps you could just tell us exactly what's going to be happening over the next couple of weeks.
Well, Michael's in town for about 8 days in England, and he's going to be doing 6 live shows, radio interviews like yourself, about 3 or 4 stations, and about two live radio shows, or 2 shows on the radio where he's actually playing.
How did the series of shows be set up? I mean, did Michael contact you? Did you contact him?
No, what happened originally was I don't know if you know, he played over in April at the Victoria Palace, which sold out, and I got involved because the promoter couldn't get work permits organised, so he asked me to do it. And then a date became available at the Drury Theatre Royal for end of November, and he said to me, I'm going to offer it to Nesmith. Do you want to do some university dates? And we said, by all means. So I called Michael, offered him this sort of series of dates, which he took. And as you know, he's in now. It turned out that it was because he had this album, The Prison, coming out, that he wanted to come over to set the deal up for the distribution of it.
In fact, I think the college dates were due to a cancellation from another band, wasn't it, I think? In fact, I think the college dates were due to a cancellation from another band, wasn't it, I think?
Only tonight. I mean, we just sort of rang every university, and some came because someone had cancelled, some came because they wanted Michael Nesmith, some came because they wanted a show that night.
How about Belfast? I believe he's doing Belfast tomorrow, in fact.
Yeah, we book a lot of acts into Belfast, or let's say we book a high proportion of the acts that do play Belfast. That's different. The guy over there knew that we were booking out Nesmith and said, does he want to come? So I said, we'll ask him. And he doesn't seem particularly bothered one way or the other, so he's going over there.
Would somebody like Nesmith have any sort of special requirements as to the things he would need? I mean, what sort of equipment is
None whatsoever.
Yeah.
I mean, he's purely acoustic. I mean, most artists, you say, well, if you get there at 4 o'clock, you can do a sound check. Michael arrived in town and we said, well, what time do you want to get to the gig yourself? I'll turn up at 8, 9 o'clock. I said, well, what about the sound check? So, well, if it's no good, it's too late to do anything about it. The only problem is he's bringing in Red Roads, his steel player for the London show, and we just had to sort out getting the equipment for Red, getting amplifiers and rehearsal studios, and 2 other musicians, Dave Pegg and Dave Maddox.
So did you arrange Maddox and Pegg?
No, Michael said he'd already contacted them. We just had to sort of finalise with them when and where they've got to be at what time and what equipment they need. He just chose them. He doesn't know them personally. He's just sort of heard of their reputations. And they wanted to work with him.
But the sort of equipment that something like Nesmith will need to do an acoustic set, I mean, how did you know that it's going to be there? I mean, are you...
All he needs is 2 microphones, PA, which we're just telling all the venues to make sure there's a PA supplied. They're usually using the support acts, as tonight and last night. And
so there's no mixer or anything?
Well, there's a mixer, but it's a very simple mixer. I mean, it just needs 2 channels.
Was that somebody from you, or is it just somebody who's...
there?
Yeah.
I mean, on this tour, there's no budget available really to sort of supply a big 16-channel mixer. It's not necessary. It's a very intimate show anyway. If you're doing the sort of like the other tours we do, where you need a sort of 24-channel mixer, then you're talking about paying out £200 a night to hire PA and staff to use it. But on this tour, if you pay out £200 a night, it doesn't leave Michael with very much.
Cool, thanks very much.
Joe, if you can, so join me. Must be the best beer in England, this. Well, you have to buy it, it comes from around here. Is that what it is? Yeah. It's supposed to be the best in England.
I